Hello, another tutorial on skin retouching. In this tutorial, I will go over two different techniques. One would be the very basic or simple technique, again, but non-destructive. So it depends on your image. So as a workflow, you will first analyze whether the image has a lot of work or just a little bit. So for instance, if this image only had a little bit just right there, I would do the simple technique. However, if it's a lot of work, then I would get into the more advanced retouching with frequency separation. So let's go with simple technique for now. So we're going to use the following tools: spot healing, healing brush, clone stamping, and then also dodge and burn. So it sounds a lot, but it's actually quite simple. So each of them does is a little different things. So spot healing obviously looks at just removing or cloning the texture, or not, sorry. Spot healing removes minor blemishes. Meanwhile, healing brush has more control for complex texture. And then if you get into clone stamping, then that gets a little bit more picky because you're really cloning the skin that's next to it. Okay, so let's start with a simple technique. We want to do all this in non-destructive editing. So first off the bat, I'm going to copy that image. And then just remove this. This is going to be your backup in case you accidentally mess that. So I'm going to create a new layer. So the plus layer here, or you can do Shift Control N or Shift Command N to create as a short key. Okay, so now that we have that, we are going to make sure that we are editing current and below. So we just going to go current and below right now. But if you have other that you want to sample, then you want to do all layers. Okay, so for now we're going to do current and below. Sorry, I think I skipped a step. So you're going to go to spot healing here. You want to sample all layers, content aware, normal. Always make sure your healing hardness, your brush hardness is to 0. Otherwise you're going to see a kind of outlined, right? So so for here, it's just very simple, right? I'm going to stamp on it and then it's going to heal. So it's going to give me right, so the red is still there, so I want to make sure the red is gone. I'm going to go around and do this really quickly, otherwise it's going to take forever. Okay, so that's my healing. And something you do notice that's creating some pattern. So when we're doing retouching, just make sure that you're not creating any pattern. Okay, so there's a little thing here. I want to get rid of that. A little more. A little bit more here. Oops, I'll undo that. That's a bit too quick, so sampled. So that's your spot healing. It's very fast, but it, like this area, I can't really go in it all at once because it kind of created a weird duplication or a weird pattern. Okay, so you need to, that's the con of this healing brush, is like you have to do little areas slowly, and sometimes you have to go over it a few times to look smooth and natural. Okay, so I think I'm near the end of this. You see that pattern created there, so undo and redo that again. So next we're gonna have the healing brush, which is this one here. Okay, I'm gonna click on it. Again, I want current and below. So we're editing it on a new layer. So what is this? Just duplicating over the image below. Okay, so again, making sure you're still clicking this layer. You want sampled. Again, double check the hardness is 0. And then we're going to go in and do more precise editing. And again, you have the target. So we are going to hold Alt for Windows and Option for Mac. Click on a smooth area. So I'm going to click on, I want to continue working on here. So I'm going to sample over here and then go over. Sample here and go over sample. Okay, so sample. So you always need to sample something really close. So for example, if I sample her nose here, see that's gonna look odd. Okay, so make sure it's close by that you're sampling. Okay. Okay, so it's starting to look okay. So I'm just gonna do go over to clone stamp. So for instance, I'm here and then I'm near the end and I want to do clone stamp. I'm going to click clone stamp here. I want to make sure the opacity of this clone is not at 100. So between 30 and 40. So just fine tuning that a little bit more so it looks natural. Okay, and you do want to do, as a workflow, do this after you clean up pretty much a lot of the skin, otherwise because like look, if I clone here, that just looks weird. Okay, so making sure the clone stamp is nice. So just gently hide any blemishes. I'm going to make this brush smaller by doing the bracket key, or you can go up here and just adjust the size directly. Okay, so I think the skin is looking okay. So now that you have, as a workflow, spot healing first, healing brush, clone stamp, and then now near the end you want to smoothen anything that you think is not quite smooth. So after you remove all the blemishes and the skin look kind of nice, we want to create a new 50% layer by doing Shift Control N for Windows, or Shift Command N for Mac. So again, Shift Control N for Windows, Shift Command N for Mac. So this will create a new layer, or you can just go to new layer. Okay, or go to layer and then new layer. So now that there's that, I want to create a 50% gray for dodge and burn. I'm going to set to blending mode. I want to do overlay. Okay, so I want to name this layer dodge and burn. Okay, so you want overlay, and you want to fill this one with 50% gray. Okay, and then click OK. So now just keep in mind using the dodging tool to lighten and the burn tool to darken with a very soft brush. Okay, so we want to go back to the brush. Okay. Or sorry, the dodge and burn. Where is the dodge and burn? There it is. Dodge here. That's blurry. So dodge is here and burns here. So you click on it to hold to change. Okay. So dodge is to lighten. So I kind of want to lighten this area a bit. make the tool brush side bigger, the bracket key on the right. So it doesn't look good. Undo. That's too much. So I want to make sure highlights. Is it highlights or midtones? Okay, 50%. I want a soft brush. Okay. So I'm dealing with the highlights. Is okay. That looks a bit like a shadow. So let's go to shadow. Yeah, there it is. Just to lighten that up a bit. Okay, and then this area here, lighten that up as well. Okay, and then if I want to make her have more of a cheekbone, so I'm gonna go and burn. Maybe I want to burn this area in a bit. Okay, that's too much. So mid-tones. Okay, too much. So I'm gonna play with exposure, bring the exposure down to maybe just 10%. So I just want to make it 10% darker, like that. Okay, so if you want to do that, you can do that. Otherwise, I would actually not do it. Okay, and then again, after overlay, you can choose what kind of opacity. So I just want to do maybe 30% opacity here. Okay, so that's it. So this is a simple way of editing. So I'm gonna just, so you put that in the local folder, okay? But let's go simple technique. I'm gonna hide that, so we're gonna do different now. Okay, so now that took actually a bit long. So we can actually look at the frequency separation. Okay, so actually I'm going to create another tutorial video to break it down. So continue playing with this simple technique, and then after you master this, you can try to do the harder one or the more advanced skin retouching, which is frequency separation.